$10,000. Okay, so with an initial investment of $10,000, at which under this great retirement plan here, you're going to get a 3% return. You're going to see that it will take you by years, 24 years, to double your money to $20,000. Now, if we go over to 6%, which again I'd like to point out is actually 1 point below the stock market average. If we take that same 10 grand, again, we're going to look at doubling it this time in 12 years, and we're going to double it again in 24 years, and again at 36. Now, I'd like to point out that at 24 years, the government's at 20, the market, or the 6%, the 1% below market, we're at 40,000. So we have already doubled what this great government plan would be capable of doing in the same amount of time. Okay. Now, I also want you to know something else. Notice something else interesting here, folks. While we have just doubled the interest rate from 3 to 6%, what we've actually done is we've actually tripled, 1, 2, 3, the number of times the initial investment will double. Okay, and when we finally hit the 36-year mark, we're looking at a whopping 80 grand on your initial investment, and you're not going to get that in that government retirement account a la Ghilarducci. Okay, now let's jump up to the magic 12%, which is what I've been talking about, which is a rate that you should and can expect from a well-managed mutual fund, of which there are many. As you can see now, at a 12%, our investment is now doubling every 6 years. Okay, so if we look at our original doubling point of 24 years under the government plan, you can see that while they're at 20 grand, we are now at a whopping $160,000, which just absolutely buries Ghilarducci and her socialist buddies on Capitol Hill. If you go down to 36 years, you will see that we are now at $640,000. Basically, in a few more years, we will be at $750,000. Now, unless you plan on living for a very, very, very long time, you are never going to see that amount under the government retirement plan that is proposed by that wingnut. So what it really comes down to is this. Are you going to trust the so-called Professor Ghilarducci in light of everything that we've seen here, or are you going to trust a genius like Albert Einstein? For me, the answer is easy. Now, let's talk about investing in mutual funds themselves, shall we? I'm not now, nor am I ever going to recommend anyone play the stock markets for themselves, unless they have a degree in the market and some years working at a brokerage under an experienced broker. Your best bet is mutual funds and through a reputable broker who can guide you. If anyone is curious and wants a recommendation, contact me. I'll be more than happy to help you out by pointing you in the right direction. I also want to point out that I'm not a licensed broker or a financial counselor. What I'm showing you is information that is available from any reputable broker and financial advisor. So before you act on anything, go speak to an expert. I'm giving you the basics, the very basics, things that the average American doesn't even have a clue about. Okay? The basics are just that, the basics. If you want advanced courses, you need to go to the guys and gals who've got the degrees and the licenses doing this stuff, which I don't have. Don't take your money out and go rush it out and put it in following my instructions, because if you make a mistake and something bad happens to you, I don't want to hear about it. Don't bring it back to me. I'm not your financial advisor. I'm a guy giving you some advice and giving you some ideas and pointing out just how stupid the current government is. Now, when you're investing in markets, in the market, in mutual funds, specifically IRAs and 401ks, and all of those others. You need to keep one thing in term at all times: long-term commitment. Okay? And I'm not talking about a marriage in Hollywood, okay? That's not a long-term commitment. I'm not talking 4 or 5 years. Okay, we're talking long-term. If you're not planning on staying in a fund for at least 10 years, at minimum, don't do it. Okay, for retirement accounts like IRAs and 401ks, remember, if you get out before retirement age, you are going to get scalped in taxes and in early withdrawal penalties. So if you're going to do it, you better be sure. And if you're going to get out, you better be sure that you have no choice in the matter. Because if you're getting out, you're going to pay a heavy, heavy price for it. Okay? This kind of investment is not done lightly. You have to be careful with what you're doing. You also have to watch the fees, the maintenance fees, you know, and all of the little side fees. This kind of investment is like any other business. You've got good people out there and you've got bad people out there. You need to do your homework. It's like going to the doctor. Get another opinion. Okay. Again, this kind of investment is not done lightly. You cannot be flighty, and you cannot be like you cannot jump around like a rabbit in a frying pan. If you do, it's going to cost you, and it's going to cost you big. You also need to keep some other things in mind when investing. The first is diversification. The second is diversification. The third is diversification. If you put all of your eggs in one basket, if that basket gets smashed, don't be surprised. You're going to lose everything. Okay? There are going to be booms and busts in the market. It's part of the game. You have to expect it. How you mitigate the bad times is by spreading your money across numerous stocks through mutual funds. You further diversify by investing in more than one fund. And this is exactly what happens in well-managed 401ks and IRAs. The next thing that you have to keep in mind, again, commitment. And this is where I'm going to explain why. When you're looking at a mutual fund to put your money in, you want to look at an average return that you're getting on a fund for over a 10-year time period. Okay? Most people want to think 1 year. Okay, what's this? What did this fund do last year? Okay? That's not a good indicator. You want to take a decade, a 10-year block. How has this fund done over a 10-year time period? That's why you cannot jump in and out of these things. Okay? Now, if you choose to invest in a fund, another thing you want to look at is how long has that mutual fund been around. If it's been around for 3 years, I'm not saying that it's not a good fund, but it doesn't have a long track record, and you might want to use some caution. However, if you've got a fund that's been around, say, 40, 50, 60, 70 years or longer, and there are funds that have been around for that long, and those funds have an average of anywhere between 10 and 14% rate of return, you probably got yourself a real good one there. Now, in each 10-year period, you can always expect at least 1 or 2 bad years, possibly even 3 or 4. Again, the market does this, okay?